Adriana Daniels wasn't just a woman. She was an idea, a myth in the minds of those who fell for her. She embodied the coquette, the archetype she'd studied meticulously in the art of seduction. Adriana's allure lay in the delicate balance of presence and absence, a dance of intimacy and distance that left admirers addicted to the chase. She wasn't a heartbreaker. No, Adriana would never be so cruel. She was a mirror, reflecting the desires of those around her, giving them just enough to keep them yearning, yet never enough to truly know her. She loved the power it gave her, the way people hung on her words, her silences. For Adriana, seduction wasn't just a tool, it was her identity. But the coquette's power was not without danger, a lesson Adriana was about to learn in the most unexpected way. It was a gray autumn afternoon when Adriana first saw Gabriel Rousseau. She had ducked into Bellamy's, a quaint bookstore that doubled as a coffee shop, to escape the drizzle. Adriana adored places like this, dim lighting, the scent of aging pages mingling with freshly brewed espresso, and the occasional kindred soul lost in their own world. As always, she was dressed impeccably. A fitted trench coat hugged her figure, and her heeled boots clicked softly against the hardwood floor. She walked past shelves of vintage books, her fingers trailing lightly over the spines as if she were tasting their histories. In the corner, by a rain-streaked window, he sat, Gabriel Rousseau. At first, he was just another patron, engrossed in a leather-bound book. His dark hair fell in soft waves, and his sharp features were accentuated by the golden light spilling through the window. But what caught Adriana's attention was his stillness. While the world buzzed around him, Gabriel remained entirely focused, entirely present. Adriana knew how to make an entrance. She chose a nearby table, where he couldn't help but notice her. She ordered a cappuccino and let her presence do the work, crossing her legs slowly, flipping her hair casually, casting fleeting glances his way. It didn't take long. Gabriel looked up, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that startled her. "Interesting choice," he said, gesturing to the book she had picked up from a nearby shelf. She glanced down. The Picture of Dorian Gray, a fitting title. "It's a classic," she replied, her voice smooth, effortless. He smiled, setting his book aside. "A tale of beauty and hidden darkness. Appropriate, don't you think?" Adriana's pulse quickened, though she masked it with a coy smile. Gabriel was not like the others. Most men were easily ensnared by her charms, eager to please, eager to chase. But Gabriel didn't chase. Instead, he observed, his gaze dissecting her every move. He matched her silences with his own, her teasing comments with equally enigmatic replies. Over the weeks, they began meeting more often, always at Bellamy's. Their conversations were a careful dance philosophy. Literature, art, but always tinged with an undercurrent of something deeper. Adriana found herself drawn to him in ways she couldn't explain. He challenged her, made her feel seen in a way that was both thrilling and unnerving. And yet, she remained the coquette. She withheld, let him come closer, only to pull away. She reveled in his intrigue, in the way he seemed captivated by her mystery. But Gabriel was different. He didn't try to uncover her secrets. He seemed to be waiting for her to reveal them. One evening, as they shared coffee in their usual corner, Gabriel leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "You're fascinating, Adriana," he said, "but I wonder, do you ever tire of the game?" She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Game? You know what I mean," he replied, his voice low. "This dance, the push and pull, the way you hold people at a distance while making them feel close. It's masterful, really, but it must get lonely." Adriana's smile faltered. No one had ever called her out so directly. For a moment, she felt exposed, her carefully constructed persona unraveling. But she recovered quickly, brushing off his words with a laugh. "What makes you think I'm lonely?" she asked, her tone light. Gabriel didn't answer. He simply smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. A week later, Adriana found an envelope tucked inside a book she had borrowed from the bookstore. It was a simple note, written in elegant handwriting. "You think you're the one in control, Adriana, but even the best players have blind spots." Her heart raced as she read the words. She glanced around the bookstore, half expecting Gabriel to appear, but he was nowhere in sight. Over the following days, she noticed small things: a man lingering too long outside her building, a shadowy figure at the end of the street. She tried to shake it off as paranoia, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Finally, she confronted Gabriel at their next meeting. "Did you write this?" she demanded, slamming the note onto the table. Gabriel studied it for a moment before meeting her gaze. "You've drawn a lot of attention, Adriana. Not just mine. What are you talking about?" "You live by the art of seduction," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But you forget that seduction isn't a shield, it's a beacon. The coquette attracts admiration, yes, but also obsession. Obsession is dangerous." Adriana felt a chill run through her. For years, she had thought her allure was a form of control, a way to keep others at bay. But Gabriel was right, she had underestimated the power of obsession, the darkness it could awaken in others. Adriana's life had begun to feel like a sanctuary since she let her walls down for Gabriel. The games of seduction and control that once defined her seemed meaningless now. Gabriel had shown her a love grounded in trust and sincerity, something she had never known. Her best friend, Rachel, wasn't as thrilled about Adriana's shift. Rachel, who had always been the shadow to Adriana's light, felt displaced. She hid it well, masking her envy with supportive smiles, but deep down, she relished the moments when Adriana's life faltered. Rachel's discontent, however, turned to quiet satisfaction when she met Vincent, a sophisticated and enigmatic man who swept her off her feet. Adriana first met Vincent at Rachel's insistence during a wine tasting event. "You'll love him, Audrey," Rachel had said with a sly grin. "He's not like the shallow guys you usually go for." The moment Adriana laid eyes on Vincent, her stomach turned. He was tall and well-dressed, his deep-set eyes holding a strange intensity that unsettled her. Something about him felt hauntingly familiar, but she couldn't place it. "Adriana," Vincent said smoothly, his hand lingering just a moment too long as he shook hers. "Rachel's told me so much about you." His gaze lingered, but his demeanor was polite, even charming. Adriana couldn't shake the feeling that she had met him before, though his neatly trimmed beard and salt and pepper hair didn't match anyone from her memory. "That's funny," Adriana replied cautiously. "She hasn't mentioned you much." Vincent chuckled, the sound low and unsettling. "I'm a recent addition to her life." Over the next few weeks, Vincent became a regular presence in Rachel's life and by extension, Adriana's. Rachel was enamored, constantly gushing about how attentive and understanding he was. "He listens, Audrey," Rachel said one evening over dinner. "Not like the men you used to date. He's serious, mature. I finally feel seen." Adriana nodded, forcing a smile, but the unease lingered. Vincent was always watching her. She would catch him stealing glances during dinners or standing to close. When they happened to be alone, he was polite, even warm, but there was something behind his eyes, something dark. It wasn't until one night, as Adriana sat flipping through an old photo album, that she realized why Vincent seemed so familiar. In one of the photos taken years ago at a gallery event, there was a man in the background. His hair was longer, his face clean-shaven, but it was unmistakably him, Victor. Adriana's breath caught. She remembered the man now. He had been one of her admirers during her Coquette days, a fleeting fascination she had toyed with before discarding. She had no idea he had been watching her all these years. Adriana told Gabriel her discovery the next day. "He's changed his name, his look, but it's him." "I know it," she said, her voice shaking. Gabriel's face darkened. "You need to stay away from him. Rachel needs to stay away from him." But when Adriana tried to warn Rachel, she was met with cold skepticism. "You're just jealous," Rachel snapped. "For once, someone likes me more than you. Maybe Vincent sees something in me you never did." Adriana's heart sank. Rachel wasn't just ignoring her warnings. She was relishing the idea that Adriana, for once, wasn't in control. Over the next few weeks, Vincent tightened his grip on Rachel's life. He isolated her from her friends, including Adriana, and subtly manipulated her insecurities. Rachel confided in Adriana less and less, until one day, she stopped answering her calls altogether. One night, Adriana received a text from Rachel, a single sentence that sent chills down her spine. "You were right." Adriana and Gabriel rushed to Rachel's apartment, but they were too late. They found her lifeless body sprawled on the floor, her face pale and frozen in terror. A single rose lay beside her, its petals stained with blood. The police confirmed what Adriana already knew. Vincent was responsible. He had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only chaos and devastation. The guilt was unbearable. Adriana blamed herself for not doing more to protect Rachel, for playing the games that had drawn Victor into her life in the first place. Adriana tried to move on, but Vincent's shadow loomed over her. Strange things began happening. Her car tires were slashed, her apartment door left ajar, and her favorite coffee shop abandoned a rose on her table without explanation. Gabriel, determined to protect her, stayed by her side, but Vincent's presence was relentless. He sent cryptic messages, hinting that Adriana was next. One night, Adriana woke to find Vincent standing in her bedroom, his face illuminated by the moonlight. "You took everything from me," he said, his voice calm but venomous. "Now I'm going to take everything from you." Before Adriana could scream, Gabriel burst into the room. The two men fought viciously, the struggle ending when Gabriel managed to knock Vincent unconscious. Adriana survived, but not without scars both physical and emotional. She realized that her life as a coquette had left her vulnerable to dangers she couldn't control. The persona that once gave her power had ultimately led to pain and loss. She decided to change. Adriana sought therapy, embraced her faith, and began to rebuild her life with Gabriel. Months later, on a quiet beach at sunset, Gabriel proposed. Adriana said yes, tears streaming down her face. Though life wasn't without challenges, Adriana found strength in her new purpose. She knew God had given her a second chance, and she vowed never to waste it.